You'll go back and read these depositions, and I think since I'm the one asking questions, I'm not going to have problems going over the depositions, but it'll help them also to look up the subjects, okay? Now, Mr. Commissioner, do you want me to call you Mr. Commissioner, or what would you like me to call you?
Whatever is good for you.
I'll call you Mr. Commissioner. How's that? Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Commissioner Jackson. These are the ground rules for the deposition. He has to go ahead and take the oath. Have you given him the oath? Okay, go ahead and give him the oath.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I never forget. This
I know I
goes
made
down.
you forget, but you can go ahead and give him the
All
oath.
right, I need you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
The best part is anything you said before that doesn't mean anything. All right. Now, Mr. Commissioner, this is the same oath that you would take in court of law, and it carries with the same penalties for perjury. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is a deposition, which means they will be recorded by a court reporter, which is Ms. Joles. She'll take down everything said, so it's important that you answer with a verbal response. So please answer yes or no instead of a nod or an aha. Also, only one person at a time should speak because a court reporter cannot take down multiple people speaking at once. So please let me finish my question before answering. In return, I will try to wait until you complete your answer before I ask another question. Also, because there are exhibits involved, I will say things like, let the record reflect that I'm turning over an exhibit and things like that. Just letting you know, because some people don't understand why I say that. After this deposition is over, you will have a chance to review the deposition, and you can make changes if you want. If you do make any changes, an attorney can comment on those changes. You can waive your right to review the deposition now or at the end of the deposition. Your attorney actually for this deposition is Ms. Frater, so she will advise you. But I have to ask you this question. Do you wish to waive a review of the deposition, or would you like to speak to your attorney first?
I'll wait.
Okay? Okay, during the course of the deposition, your attorney may object. Please let her state the objection, and then you can proceed to give your answer unless you are specifically instructed not to answer by your attorney. Okay? And what I ask the attorney to do is, when she states her objection, please state the rule that she's using or the standard relevancy and no speaking objections. She knows what that means. So, okay? If I ask you a question you do not understand, please say so, and I'll try to rephrase the question so you can understand. Otherwise, people reading the transcript will assume you understand the question. Your attorney may also ask me to rephrase the question, which is fine, too. Okay? In some cases, I will ask you to estimate something. Please provide your best estimate. What I mean by an estimate is, like you're looking at this table in front of you, you can, since you see it, you can probably estimate the size of it. A guess is like if I tell you to estimate the table that's in the library room. There's no way, since you don't know what that table is, that would be considered a guess. Do you understand that, Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. If you need a break, just let me know, and we can take a break. If I have to ask you a question, I ask that you answer a question first before we take a break. Now, the rules of this deposition is a little different because the federal judge has stated we are only allowed an hour and a half. If there are objections made, certain objections will be off the clock, and then the clock will start again. However, and that the testimony I'm giving you today is Ms. Fraser's probably already advised you what questions and what areas, but it's mainly from your blog postings. So, besides the background questions. Do you understand, Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready to give your best testimony today, sir?
I'm ready to answer your question.
Okay. I have to ask you this. I'm not assuming anything or making judgment. Within the last 24 hours, have you consumed any drugs or alcohol that may affect your ability to testify?
No, I have not.
Okay. Now, these are some of the preliminary questions and background questions I'm going to ask you, Mr. Commissioner. Have you reviewed any documents in preparation for this deposition? such as your web postings or anything like that?
Yes,
Okay. If so, you will probably be able to identify them, correct?
correct.
Okay, did you bring any documents in response to deposition notice?
No,
Probably because I already have just the web postings, okay? If I show you the web postings, is your memory sufficient enough to clearly identify that they are your web postings? I will tender these hard copies over to your attorney first, but do you think you'll be able to recognize your own web postings?
from the blog, yes.
Yes, I have to ask you that question. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, Mr. Commissioner. Okay, now we're going to go to some background information. Mr. Commissioner, have you ever been involved in any previous lawsuits?
Can you,
Objection.
Well, you can ask about civil lawsuits. Have you been involved in any civil lawsuits?
It's beyond the scope of what the judge,
Well, these are background questions, so,
and it's not relevant. You can go ahead and answer, but
okay.
objection noted.
can you be clear?
Well, the purpose of this question is to see, have you ever had any other depositions previously?
No, I've not had a deposition.
Okay. Now we're going to go through your educational history. Can you begin from your latest to your oldest? What's your education level?
I attended LSUS, got a master's degree.
What year?
State University. I graduated in 2012.
Okay.
Grambling State University 2010. Woodlawn High School 2004. Linwood Middle School 2000. And Ingersoll Elementary somewhere in the 90s.
Okay.
Ingersoll, INGERSOLL.
Please provide your current business address or just work address.
505 Travis Street, Suite 110.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
No.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of any other crime?
Can you expound on that? What
Well,
other crime?
Other than like traffic violations, anything else misdemeanor?
No.
Okay. Now, the topics that you're about to testify to, have you seen the notice of deposition?
Yes.
Okay, just for the record, I'm going to provide a copy of the notice of deposition that I would like to put into the record. Okay? In my understanding today, this is going to be a little modified because the questions are mainly pertaining to the subjects contained in your web posts. But let the record reflect that I am tendering a copy to opposing counsel and tentatively labeling. Is that the notice I provided to you?
Yes.
Okay. Any objections to me submitting that into the evidence?
No.
Okay. Let the record reflect that I'm going to attach this notice. It's per Federal Rule Civil Procedure 30 and identify this as P1. Okay. There you are. Okay, Commissioner Jackson, when were you aware that you were going to testify in this matter?
I received the notice from my parents' attorney that I would be deposed 2 weeks ago, maybe.
No.
2 weeks ago.
No time previous to that?
No.
Okay. Now what we're going to do is, after you got the notice of deposition, did you review any documents in preparation for this deposition?
As it relates to or pertaining to,
Your web posts?
when you say review, you mean,
Read it over, study it?
I wouldn't say study.
Okay. Now, okay. Now also, can you give me a little bit of background of you as a Caddo Parish Commissioner? When were you first elected?
I was elected in the fall of 2015, sworn in 2016.
Okay, what is exactly is the structure of the Caddo Parish government? Commission.
12 members, and we hire an administrator to administrate, and the parish commissioners provide policy and legislation.
And you're in District 3, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about District 3?
It consists of several neighborhoods in downtown Shreveport.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, and this is to assist you, is let's record reflect that I'm tendering a copy of the web post that I'm going to ask questions about. Okay, to your council record. Okay, I know it has an exhibit sticker in there, but it's going to be, I'm going to put something else on.
You're putting new exhibit stickers on.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are actually web posts that were provided, that were filed by Caddo Parish. Oh, no, he can look that for refresh his memory. Okay, now, we're going to turn to the first page of this, okay? Now, what I want you to do is, at the very bottom of the front page, where it says the bedrock of our judicial system, can you read that statement, the bedrock of the judicial system, and then I believe it ends on the second page. Can you please read that out loud?
Is that a question?
I'm just asking you, can you please read that
I
statement?
can read it.
Yes, can you read it, please? Please read it.
The bedrock of our judicial system is in the 14th Amendment, which guarantees all Americans the right to due process and equal protection under law. The Confederacy, of whom the monument is dedicated to, strongly opposed the initial ratification of the 14th Amendment and many other post-Civil War Reconstruction era amendments. While none of us can turn back the clock of history back to 1903, when the Caddo Parish Police Jury allowed the monument to be erected, we must consider the issue before us in light of its current citizen layman situation in life, or setting in life. The United States Supreme Court is the only court mentioned in the United States Constitution. When you visit the court, you find no monuments or statues dedicated to anyone or anything other than justice being blind and equal. Caddo Commissioner StephenJackson.
Okay, you still stand by all the words in that statement?
Yes.
All right, now, the first thing I'm going to turn to is the 14th Amendment. Do you believe that everyone, including my client, the United Dollars, the Confederacy, have 14th Amendment rights?
I never said anyone didn't.
Okay. Now, the reason why I'm asking is because the resolution that was passed, number 69 of 2017, you voted for that resolution, correct?
Objection, beyond scope.
How this?
It's specifically the blog post, which does not reference the vote.
Well, it references the lawsuit at the very beginning, which is based upon Resolution 69 of 2017.
We can talk about the lawsuit, but we cannot talk about his vote. His vote and
Okay,
the information surrounding his privilege.
I understand that. We're gonna go to this then. Now in the lawsuit, is there anything that you've done to ensure that my client's 14th Amendment rights were respected?
I never said.
Objection.
You mentioned 14th Amendment rights are for all. That's part of the web post, client. So, what did you do to ensure that the 14th Amendment rights of my clients were respected?
Objection.
Okay, but he can answer
No,
the question.
He can't.
It says it right here, 14th Amendment guaranteed for all. So I want to know, what did he do to guarantee the rights of my client?
Counselor, that would be with regard to the vote.
Counselor,
And the
Counselor,
vote-
can we
the
get
vote
off
is-
the clock a second? We can discuss this.
I've stopped it.
Okay.
The vote is privileged.
It's not privilege. He says right here, the bedrock of his system,
We can
the
talk
14th
about-
Amendment, which guarantees all. My client, he stated that it also pertains to my client. So I'm asking him, what did he do to guarantee the right of my client? under the 14th Amendment.
First of all, his answer was that he never stated it did not pertain to your client. Not
Well-
hold up, not definitively that it pertained to your client. Second, if we're gonna talk about, we cannot talk about what he's done per the court's order. We can talk about what he wrote. He did not write about what he did or did not do to make sure someone
Counsel,
was guaranteed their rights.
I'll tell you what, I think we need to talk to the magistrate
I think
judge.
we do.
Can we get, Henry, can you go call him up? Because you can do these objections later, but he needs to answer these questions because he mentions 14th Amendment. These are the subjects.
That particular one is privileged. I disagree.
Well, let's go get the magistrate judge.
Let's get him. Henry, do you want to use this one?
I'll get it on the line.
Yeah, we're going off the record.
Okay.
Is the judge available? No, we're in the middle of a deposition pursuant, as you recall, in the Daughters of the Confederacy lawsuit. Judge James did amend Judge Hornsby's order with regard to the depositions. And so we're in the middle of that deposition, and an issue has come up about what's the allowable scope of the deposition. So opposing counsel requested that I try to get the matter on the phone. Correct. Okay, well, I think what I'm gonna do then is, report back from that and, encourage everybody to the topic. It'd be better for me to, for us to call back in or for you to call us. It is 17-13-46. Okay. Sure, 226-6947. Okay, sounds good. All right, bye-bye.
What do you say, Henry?
Judge Hornsby is on the bench. His secretary says that she anticipates he will be off in 15 minutes. If he gets off before then, they will call us. Otherwise, she instructed me to have us call in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Do you want to move on to another area and
Well, there's no point because this is such a narrow. I mean, if it's outside just the scope of the wording, I can't answer any questions.
Okay.
Because my understanding is it's topic by topic.
So, didn't know if there was any other
ground that you could be covering to make use of the afternoon.
Well, I mean, she's objecting to just me asking about the 14th Amendment, so I can't answer.
Okay.
I mean, we can't, every question's an objection, and he instructed not to answer. Can't ask.
That's fine.
But I do have a question about the request for June 2nd. She's going to be in tomorrow? Your legal secretary?
she's in now. Let me, you're looking for a hold harmless, correct, for the
Yes.
courthouse?
Yeah.
It should be ready because she had showed me a draft,
Okay.
and there was an error in it, so I was having to redo it. So let me check and see if it's ready.
Okay, because I just wanted to turn it over to my client.
Yeah.
Oh, it's done?
There you go.
Hey, thank you. They'll be very happy to get this. Appreciate it.
Sure. No, it was, as I said, there was an error. I looked at it. And they had referenced Parks and Recreation as opposed to facilities and maintenance in one place, so I had to fix that.
Is it okay that, once you get it signed, can she go ahead and hand deliver this? Ms. Nichols can?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna call her up and drop it off tonight at her house. We will,
Yeah, and then she can just drop it off with, or at facilities where she usually does, or if she wants to bring it up here and drop it off, whichever.
okay, well, I'll let her know.
Yeah.
I'll let her know. So,
And then we'll get it signed, get the signed original back, and it's just to scan and email the original, a signed copy back to you.
yeah, sure, thank you.
Okay.
I got big files on this case, so.
Anybody park across the street?
Oh, yeah, where I got her.
Good. Already got stamped?
He already knows my,
Good,
he already
Good.
knows.
good.
No, I haven't gotten my things.
You never got yours?
I haven't gotten the stamps.
Oh, they
Oh, here, I'll go get it stamped.
Oh,
They need
really?
stamps.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, yours. Thanks.
Hey, thank you.
Sure. Now, whose is whose?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then they need to,
Oh,
let's see, there were one of them, two of them with numbers and one of them without.
there you go.
All right.
There you go.
Y'all will be walking across to the parking lot on your, together anyway, so.
Yeah. Is it about 15 minutes yet, or?
It is, got about 3 minutes left on that.
Okay.
They actually, somebody was calling into the office just now, but they hung up, so I didn't think that was him, so. Y'all, you just use that phone in here on, make a conference call from here, or you wanna step into our office and do it?
No, I think from here is fine, because that way everybody's on the
Okay.
same page of music. Or same sheet of music, excuse me.
I'll tell you what, David, you can reach it and stick it on the table, please.
Sure. Yeah. That's Joel's. That's hers. Okay.
She's waiting for you.
That was Ms. Ewan calling in. You need to pick up on line 2. Yes, ma'am, this is Henry Bernstein, Dave Nadler, and Donna Frazier.
Well, I was trying to tell your legal assistant that this is not the actual conference with Judge Hornsby. He is going to be in the courtroom longer than I expected because I looked, and there is also, in addition to the recent arrest, he did the initial appearance first, and I listened in the courtroom, and when he finished, he mentioned that he was going to break for a minute and then would start the next proceeding. And I see where he does have an arraignment of 2 defendants scheduled at the same time, and so they're back in the roving room now, or he is, talking to the attorneys. So it's going to be longer than what I initially told you, and I wanted to let you know that. So I didn't know what you wanted to do, or if you still want me to. I just don't know how long these 2 arraignments are going to last.
This is Dave Naylor. You see, the problem is we can't continue on with the deposition because opposing counsel and I have a different interpretation of what or the scope of my question can be. I'm going by the topics that are mentioned in the blog, while opposing counsel is going by the actual wording, or by the actual wording, and for that reason we can't continue because if I can't ask, if it's the actual wording, we just have the wording of the blog. So there's no point in going further with a deposition if it's just the wording. But if we're going by topics, I can continue, but...
Right, so there's just nothing you can do
No.
until you hear from Judge Hornsby. I realize that, but I'm just letting you know that I don't know how long it's going to, how long those 2 arraignments are going to last. So I didn't want you waiting because when we got off the line with each other, I indicated that it would probably just be a very few minutes, but right now that's not the case. And
Yes.
so I just wanted to let you know that as soon as he comes out of the courtroom, I plan on giving him all of this information, and hopefully he'll be able to call you as soon as possible. But I just can't. I don't know how much longer he's going to be.
Ms. Ewan, you say you don't know how much. Are we talking a half an hour or an hour and a half, or?
I have no idea because he's talking with the attorneys first in the courtroom, and in the roving room, and those discussions will last a few minutes, I'm sure, and then they'll go into the courtroom, and both defendants will be formally arraigned. I would say it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes would be my guess.
Okay. Do we want to try to get a hold of Judge James, since that
Yes.
was his order?
Yes, can we go
I'm
ahead
good
and
with
ask
that.
Judge James?
Ms. Ewan, I think we'll do that since it's actually an interpretation of Judge James's order. I think we'll try.
Okay. And if you're not able to reach him, call back, and I'm going to listen in to the courtroom proceedings, and if it, looks like it's going to conclude earlier than that, maybe you could get word to your legal assistant, whoever answers the phone,
Sure.
that I could be calling back in, and then she could just say, well, y'all got in touch with Judge James and everything's okay.
Okay, I'll do that. We'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's James Chambers.
Not a
We got an answer machine.
Oh, okay. All right. Was there a trial you had this week, or was it next week you have a trial?
Next week.
Next week? I just
Yeah.
remembered you had some scheduling
Yeah,
issues.
yes, actually, okay, some of it got resolved,
Oh, okay.
but
What kind of case is it?
it's the best possible, family law. And until it is officially resolved, it's not resolved. Right now, they're agreeing, but last week they were fighting. And I also have a criminal matter that's due on the 16th,
Mm,
divorced couple.
yeah.
So that one's not as hard. The one on the 18th is the rough
Is
one.
that down there in Mansfield?
Yes, they got,
Which, let's see, I know they split those and always get it confused. The 11th stayed in Sabine and Mansfield's now
the
the
42nd.
42nd. Okay.
Yeah.
Always have to stop and look that up.
Yeah, and those cases are, especially the family law ones, they're tragic. But it's one of, I have 3 left, so I am closing down that part of my practice. Because,
Why on earth would you do that?
close down that part of my practice?
Yeah, that's sarcasm.
Oh. Well, Donna, sometimes I don't know when you're joking or not. So,
That's why I'm so good at it.
yeah, yeah. Good grief, I want it. You know, hey, Donna, you know what that part is? This is a disagreement, but without an answer, we can't really proceed.
Right.
Good grief. Because then, I'll know how to ask questions. Simple.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. What's the latest on the ID deal down there with the DA?
Oh,
No, thank you.
oh my God, no thank you. Okay, this is basically a fight between the judges and the DA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw something in the paper, and my buddy Jimmy, Judge Peters came up to sit ad hoc, I think, to make a ruling in it, and I saw something in the,
Yeah, it's,
I used to work.
and the lawyers are all trying to avoid taking sides, obviously, you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're stuck in the middle of it. And I'm friends with 2 of the people
Mhm.
out of the 3 involved in the fight. Well, I
Yeah.
should say, I'm friends with 3 out of the 4 of the people
Mm-hmm.
that are involved in the fight. And you would ever expect a rural parish like DeSoto to have these statewide implications?
Yeah, I know.
Does it
The
affect-
article I was reading was talking about how it went up to the Second Circuit, and one panel ruled one way, and another panel ruled another way, I think.
Yeah. And I knew the I don't know how the panels work, but
Yeah.
like I knew the main judges from both of those panels
Yeah,
because people ask me, well, I mean,
yeah.
they have their own ways of viewing things.
Yeah, and they're assigned by lot, by
Yeah.
random drawing, so you don't know who you're gonna get. And then,
Yeah.
my friend, I used to work for Jimmy Peters
Oh, really?
before he went on that was before he went on the Third Circuit. This was back in the day.
Oh, wow.
He was a plaintiff, a lawyer, and an assistant DA. First, way back when, this is like in the late 70s.
And you know, the worst part about the whole thing that I tell folks is, I said, believe it or not, a lot of these people were pretty nice. They're like, what? I said, that's their public persona, that's their public hat, but you meet them, talk to them like regular people when they're not in their job mode, pretty, fairly easygoing people, but
Mhm.
it just boils down to people disagree, the sides just disagree about whether or not finding money from that source,
Mhm.
lace source, is a conflict of interest or not.
Mhm.
I don't know enough about it to comment either way, but I've been an eyewitness to some of it because I've been in the courtroom when all this stuff would pop up.
Mhm.
And of course, the attorneys were all like, all we're here for is a continuance, not this big hearing.
Yeah. Of course, and the problem is that if the ID office doesn't get the funding, then the court starts appointing private counsel, and there's no funding to pay private counsel, so you wind up, the argument that some of the lawyers up here have been making is that that's involuntary servitude, or that's taking property without due process because you're forcing lawyers to do legal work without compensating them.
Right.
So
Well, of course.
unfortunately, that argument didn't get any traction, so,
No.
with the court, so.
Well, that's why. That's why lawyers up here avoid certain days to go to court
Mhm.
if they can, all possible, because those are appointment days. And,
I made the mistake of representing my stepson on a custody matter and was in front of one of the domestic judges on his day that he had all the unrepresented defendants in, and I didn't, before I got out of the courtroom, it was, Mr. Bernstein, before you leave. And I wound up being appointed to represent some unrepresented
Yeah.
father that hadn't paid his child support.
Well, you know where else they get us is those of us that are on the borders of the parish.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Because
we're also
because you practice up here, you get tagged up here too.
right,
Yeah.
right. And people think I'm kidding. They're like, "How can you do that? You're from a different parish." Well, he's looking at it that he sees my face all the time, and that if he calls my office, if his secretary calls my office and wants something, it's in within half an hour,
Sure.
depending on traffic. They're like, half hour is long. I said, no. You know how big Shreveport is? If you got an office on Burke Coons, it's like 20 minutes.
Mm.
I'm only 10 minutes away from Burke Coons, but yeah. It's faster for me to go to the Caddo Parish Courthouse than it is for me to go to the DeSoto Parish Courthouse.
Hmm.
So, because we have all of those cops out there ready to give speeding tickets. So that's why it's slower, because I have to go the speed limit. They'll give you tickets. They don't care who you are. You'll just get them.
Mm.
They don't care. I was called to go to Sabine because something didn't reach a judge's chamber, so I was speeding. Doesn't matter, I admitted now because it was resolved.
Yeah.
Hey,
And the trooper care less.
Mm.
no good.
Told him you can call the judge's
You made it
office. Care less.
Hello.
Sad part was I was only like a block from the border
Can you hear
between
me?
DeSoto and Sabine.
Mm.
Because if I'd actually made it to Sabine,
Hello, how
that
you feel?
I wouldn't have gotten a ticket because that deputy
You feeling better?
knows the judge.
Mm.
All the state
Well,
troopers
good.
care less. So, okay.
I'm gonna come by and see you after a while.
Traffic court's great.
Mm-hmm.
You sound better. Sound better than yesterday. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I think what's happening.
Well, I'm gonna be by there in a couple hours to check on her, see how she's doing.
Judge James is that I understand that Carla,
All right. I'm
Okay.
glad you made it. I'll see you in a little while.
the law clerk that we're
Yeah.
dealing with, has
All right,
gone
thank
over
you
and is
for
working
letting me
for
call.
Judge Doty now.
All right.
Okay.
Which makes sense because he's new on the bench.
Yeah.
And
All
so
right.
since she's a career law clerk and has, gosh, worked there years.
I never knew that.
All right.
Yeah.
sounds right.
She's so young.
Yeah, but it's
All right,
it's
bye-bye.
funny because, you know, in law school, you know, you always figure clerkships 1 year,
Yeah.
2 years, and
Yeah.
you do it and you get out and go practice. But
Yeah.
I guess probably 10, 15 years ago, particularly on the federal side, they started having career clerks they just stayed, you know, and some of the judges over the years that I've known would have one clerk that's a career clerk that just stays, maybe works 5, 10, 15 years for them. And then the other clerk position they have, they then rotate a recent graduate in and out. So they'll have one longtime clerk they call it the career law clerk, and then they'll have one position that'll be a new graduate. And so Carla May was the career law clerk over there for Judge James, and so then when Judge Doty came in as the active duty judge, since he was brand new to being a federal judge, my hunch is what they did was they said, okay, we'll give you Carla because she knows the ropes
Yeah.
but
Well,
it also
she's sharp.
means that Judge James doesn't have a law clerk, I don't think.
He won't get one until what, August, right?
Well, I mean,
September? Isn't that when they get the new new graduates?
yeah, I mean, normally the cycle is summer, July.
Okay.
You know, basically July, because that gives people to graduate. You know, like you and I, like we all know, gives you time to graduate and then get admitted to pass the bar, take the bar,
Yeah.
and then start a job July 1st. So and probably at this point it would probably be hard to find somebody to come in.
Because in another federal case of mine, that was why we didn't get an answer to our motion for summary well, the other side's motion for summary judgment for months
Mm,
for that reason. Because when it was filed, it's right at the beginning of the summer,
yeah.
and they were changing clerk. Well, of course, no one told us that, but
Yeah.
I knew why, because it's like, this is so simple. If you read it, it only takes, you can make a decision in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, but so anyway, I knew I knew it had to be it was because they canceled the hearings,
Mm,
and so stuff that was filed in June, we waited till September,
mm,
and they didn't even tell us at the hearing. They told us, wait. So I said, okay. And then they told us, since we added a new defendant, that I guess they're in abeyance.
mm.
We'll have to resubmit them again. So they didn't even make a decision on them.
Hmm.
So it was long. But that case alone is probably a couple thousand pages. So I've been married to that.
Mm.
Hey, Mickey, are you gonna have a problem with being here longer? Or?
No, just on midnight.
No. Because the reason why I'm asking is once a judge umpires us, I wasn't joking. It was gonna be pretty quick, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I just
It's,
let the person know. Yeah.
yeah. So once he umpires it, we can.
Since I'm keeping time, I want to go get a charger, so make sure I don't.
Okay.
Is there a vending machine in this building?
It's in the basement. Yeah.
You wanna, Mick? You wanna go there? You want me to give you some cash?
No, I've got cash.
Okay.
The elevator goes, I never noticed the elevator goes all the way down.
No, it actually, you have to have a card to get down there. Yeah. There's a separate little elevator, that first one. When you come into the building from the front, a lot of people mistake it for an elevator that comes up here, but it only goes one floor. I'm gonna grab some water. Does anybody want anything?
Yeah. Do you need money?
No, we got water in here, it's free.
I'm gonna wait. I'm
You-
fine. Yeah, because once we get started again, once the judge makes the order, I
Do
think
you
we can.
want water?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold on, Donna. Sorry.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm good. Well, yeah, I take a bottle.
Okay.
If you got room temp.
Yeah, I have one more.
I don't have any room temp.
Room temp, I better usually have it in Word conference room.
Okay,
Yep.
check him, cause I
Yeah.
know it's in the refrigerator there, but I didn't do it.
Okay.
This is one of those the nail came out of the horseshoe scenarios, and the horse tripped,
Yeah.
and the trip was only going to be.
Jockey landed under the horse.
Yeah.
So you want to keep rolling or what?
Well, I guess just turn it back on once we get the.
It's gonna be on the phone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's turn
Once
it
we
on.
know that, huh?
Just turn it on when the call comes in.
Yeah. Turn it on because.
That's what, 3 years
Okay.
ago?
Yeah.
That they did the
Yeah,
referendum?
just do that because
That's
once we
right.
start,
I
you
knew.
can read it and we can go ahead and start.
Okay.
So,
So you're right there?
because the time now is like, I think
4:15 almost.
4:15 almost. I think I'm the only one you probably know that doesn't want to be a judge at all. I don't even want to be I mean, not that I would be a federal, but I don't want to be a judge or anything. It's too many. I've been in the profession too long to have too many friends, and it makes it unpleasant to be a judge. Yeah, the only federal judge I kind of knew was only because I went to law school with his daughter, and I forget his first name. He was Judge Hittner out of Houston.
He never understood.
He's probably long retired by now, but he would, while I was in law school, he would do like impromptu lectures to the students. And
Mm. You went to Tulane, right?
I didn't go to Tulane Law School. I went to
Oh.
Tulane undergraduate. I went to a place called South Texas College of Law. I did not get in Tulane. I wish I did, but I did not.
I just remember you talking about going
Yeah.
to Tulane with somebody.
Joel Pierce.
Yeah,
Joel
Joel
Pierce
Pierce.
was in law school when I was there.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I went to law school with. Not law school. When I was there, actually, some people that became famous or relatives of famous people were with me. Like
Mm-hmm.
the story I always tell my nephews are how I did not believe Bruce Lee's daughter was Bruce Lee's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
because she was just this very very nice girl, Shannon Lee. So when I met her, I said, "Hey, I bet you hear this all the time. Are you Bruce Lee's daughter?" She said, "Well, I really am." I said, "Oh yeah, sure." That was really the only time I ever spoke to her. I mean, she was friends of some of my friends. I didn't find out till like years later she really was Bruce Lee's daughter. I had no idea. None whatsoever. But she was just a nice person. Never brought up that subject again with her. So, because that was a fun time to go to college. Nowadays, kids, it's terrible. The world's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Things were so optimistic back then, back in the 80s. Where'd you go? Did you go to Tech, or where'd you go for undergrad?
I graduated from McNeese.
McNeese? Okay. I remember going there when I was for speech,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in high school.
In LSU Law School.
LSU Law
You may be
School.
the third person I met that graduated from McNeese.
Yeah, that was a really good school. I forget his name now, but I had a friend that was a professor there
Of course.
20 years ago. I should say
Yeah.
assistant
Like
professor.
Charles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
McNeese State Cowboys.
yeah.
It was a funny thing because the kind of the standing joke was that Lake Charles was more cowboy and than it was Cajun, and East Texas, like Beaumont and Port Arthur, was more Cajun than it was cowboy.
Cowboy.
Yeah. You know, I agree with you about that because when I was in law school in Houston,
Yeah.
I'd meet a lot of people from Beaumont. I
Yeah.
would think they were from Louisiana
Yeah.
because of the accent.
Mm. My mother would tell a funny story because she's from North Louisiana, and her first job teaching was in Port Arthur. And she was calling roll the first day of class, and so she was calling roll, and she said, "Paul Hebert."
Oh,
Nobody answered. "Paul Hebert." Nobody answered.
Oh.
And finally this little voice piped up, "I'm Paul Hebert." And so, of
yeah.
course, North Louisiana, she actually grew up near a little town called Hebert, over between Monroe and Columbia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hebert
always
Stark.
mistaken it as Herbert. I always mistaken it as Herbert when
Yeah.
I would see it.
Mm.
Mm.
Gina and LaSalle and Columbia and Alla and Tullis. You're shaking your head like you've been there.
I started out reporting in Alexandria,
Okay.
and then
Oh, let's see.
I would get called actually to come up here sometimes, and Monroe,
Mm.
so I'd go that way.
Columbia, is that
Is
far?
that it?
I thought Columbia was east.
Parish
No,
Attorney's
it
Office.
is in between Monroe and
Okay, are you transferring it in here, or do we need to pick up? Okay, okay. Hello? Hey Patty, this is Donna Frazier. Let me put you on speakerphone. Okay, Patty?
All right, so we have Ms. Frazier, Mr. Nadler, and Mr. Bernstein. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm transferring you to the judge now. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge Hornsby.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I'm all ears.
Okay, Your Honor, this is Dave Naylor on behalf of the plaintiff, and I'm deposing Caddo Parish Commissioner StephenJackson. And according to the ruling, I can only ask him questions from the blog. And Ms. Frazier and I are differing on the scope of what I can ask him because she's basically, I'm asking him questions pertaining to the topics that are brought up by the blog. And Ms. Frazier believes that I should only be restricted to asking questions based on, go ahead, Ms. Frazier, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Your Honor, what the problem is that the particular question that was asked actually referred back to actions taken surrounding the legislation, which the court has ruled are not properly the subject of the deposition, that those are privileged. And so my concern is whether or not it's a topic on the blog, if it relates back to the privileged legislation, then it can't be asked.
Your Honor, what I'd asked was, because the statement was about Mr. Jackson had written that he basically the 14th Amendment is guaranteed for all, and I asked him, how did you guarantee the 14th Amendment rights of my client? I don't think that relates. That, and also within the blog itself, there is some relations back to the lawsuit itself.
Let me get this straight. You're asking the commissioner what he did to protect the 14th Amendment rights of your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that's outside the scope of Judge James's ruling.
Okay.
That's off limits.
Okay, even though he stated in the statement he guarantees it for all? I mean, that's what I base that question off of. One statement that he made in the blog.
What the statement is on the blog.
The statement on the blog said the bedrock of our judicial system is the 14th Amendment, which guarantees all Americans the right to due process and equal protection under the law. So that's why I asked that question, what have you done to guarantee the rights of my client?
Mr. Frazier, isn't that based on a statement from the blog?
Your Honor, the problem is the only action that is before the court is the legislative action. And the ruling specifically said that the legislative actions are privileged and cannot be asked about, whereas items from the blog can. So I would argue that that's basically two distinct actions. I mean, there's two distinctly different areas. I think he can ask questions about the statements made on the blog, but I do not think if it relates back to the legislative actions, which are privileged, that is within the scope of the ruling.
Your Honor, I don't disagree on that, but the question I asked was based on the statement he made in the blog.
Well, it does sound that way to me. It fits both, but he said you could ask about statements made on his blog.
So even though the question was about what did he do to guarantee, which he basically, the statement on the blog is that the 14th Amendment guarantees due process rights to all citizens. Not the commissioner, the 14th Amendment. So he can take that and go and ask what the commissioner did to guarantee 14th Amendment rights to someone. And if he can, I would ask the court to just clarify what the line is going to be.
Well, I'm trying to piece this together with y'all on the phone.
Yes,
so
sir.
Y'all are catching me cold on all
Oh, I'm
this.
sorry, Your Honor.
We understand that, Judge. We do, and
I just came out of a fairly complicated court proceeding, so I apologize.
no,
Your Honor, you don't
we
have to.
apologize for catching you cold.
We apologize for catching you cold. Actually, Ms. Frazier and I have been trying to work it out, but there's just an impasse, Your Honor. That's why we're asking you.
Where are you going with the line of inquiry, Mr. Naylor?
The line of inquiry, Your Honor, I'm just asking, basically, because we're on part of the lawsuit has to do with constitutional matters. And if the topic is brought up in his blog, I'm just asking him questions based on the constitutional matters. Because, as you well know, Your Honor, 14th Amendment does talk about due process. And he mentions that, and I just wanted to know, what did he do that for my client?
Well, I think you can, but I don't want you to use it. I mean, I think it's fair game for you to ask him why he said that, or why is that on the blog.
Your Honor?
But Judge James said you can ask that, but hang on, don't interrupt me.
Oh,
But because the phrase due process was on his blog, I don't think that gives you license to start asking about things that would otherwise be covered by the Judge James's protective order. The phrase due process is on there. You only have an hour to depose the man, and it sounds like that time would be, I think if your position is because the phrase due process is on his blog, you can go on and on about what he did with regard to the due process. I mean, it's just, I think you're trying to make too much out of that. So I'm going to order that that question is off limits, and if you wish, you can appeal that after the deposition and seek leave to reopen it for that purpose.
Your Honor, yes, I understand, because you see, the thing is, though, if I'm only limited to what he says, I guess I wanted clarification, because I do agree with you. If you said why you say it or what you say, and that's what I was getting ready to tell you, Your Honor. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think what you did was, I think you just answered, I think you clarified the scope right there. I can't ask those, and that does not limit me, and I think that that's appropriate, Your Honor, if that's okay.
No, I don't have a list of your proposed questions, and I hope that I don't have to approve each and every one. I just,
Okay.
I'm trying to enforce Judge James's ruling, and when he said, with regard to statements on the web, but otherwise limited as Hornsby said, I've got to make sense of that, and I think a line of questioning with regard to a broad phrase like due process is just, we've only got an hour.
Right. And Your Honor,
I'm going to rule that the statement that you proposed and that counsel objected to is outside the scope, and that you be directed to move on.
okay. Well, thank you, Your Honor. Actually, you did clarify it for us. You were very, that helps out.
Thank you,
I'm
Your
fine,
Honor.
Your Honor. I have no objections to that. I'm fine with that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Ms. Frazier, anything else?
No, that's it, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay. That makes it real simple, Donna. I'll ask questions of that nature. That clarifies it.
Okay.
That way I'm not hamstrung. I can ask why or what. Okay? Because you're not objecting to if I ask you, what do you mean by that?
No.
Okay. So it's going to be basically why or what. Okay. All right. Now what's going to happen is, since we're going to be back on record, please read this statement out. The same statement according to federal rules. Okay. Yeah, it's on. Camera's on.
Oh, it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I keep waiting on him to do
No,
it.
it's on.
Okay. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 30B4 require certain statements on the record to be done at the beginning of each tape